Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here, and happy new year. Welcome to the first video of the new year on my channel. Now I know I didn't upload a lot during like November, December time, or a lot last year. I explained it so many times, but I was just in a massive life slump last year. But I am excited to try and make more videos. I know that this year for me will be insanely chaotic, so I really don't know how much I'm going to actually be able to film and edit, but I will try my very hardest to at least get a few videos out here and there. But today I thought I would do a 10 books I want to read in 2025. Now I know a lot of people usually do like a 25 books I want to read in 2025 and all that, but I did decide to keep my list lower to have like lower expectations. Like my reading goal for this year is only 40 books. I usually read like around 60 books a year, so I have lowered it a lot. But like I said, I'm going to have an extremely chaotic year, so I didn't want to put too much pressure on myself by having such a high reading challenge or having such a high list of books that I really want to read this year. So I thought I would keep it at 10 books. I feel like that's really reasonable, especially for the year I'm about to go through, which you guys will all kind of see, don't worry. So I thought that is what we would do today, and I'm just going to get right into it. I've got 5 new release books for 2025, and then I've got 5 books that I either already own or have already been on my radar and I just didn't get to them in 2024. So the first book I would love to read in 2025 is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. To no one's surprise, I absolutely love Emily Henry's writing. I have read mostly everything she's released. I think there's maybe like one book that's like her first book that she released that I haven't read, but like her more popular ones I have read, and I absolutely loved them. I really want to do a reread of them at some point. Don't know when that's going to happen, but I'm so excited for this new release. I'm so excited to see what she does with this story and if it lives up to my most liked story by her, which I feel like is a lot of people's like least favorite story of hers. I remember when it came out, you either really loved this book or you didn't like it at all, and that was Funny Story. I absolutely devoured and loved Funny Story. I thought it was so good. I loved the storyline, I loved the writing, I loved the characters. I know the characters was like a really big thing with people not liking it, but I genuinely really loved it, and so to me that's like my favorite, and I've got such high expectations because surprisingly Happy Place, which I know a lot of people really loved, was not my favorite of Emily Henry's books. So depending on which way like it kind of leans towards could depend on how much I do or don't like it. So Great Big Beautiful Life is about 2 writers competing to be the one to write the biography of a woman that not a lot of people have seen recently, and they really want this opportunity to be the one to write about this woman because it would really enhance their career. And it's somewhat of like a forced proximity, like romance. Like if you've read anything by Emily Henry, you know that it's not just romance that she writes as like women's literary fiction with romance, and I absolutely love that. But yeah, it's kind of like a forced proximity as they're both given a 1-month trial with this woman, and then after that 1-month trial she will decide who she wants to write the biography, and so they're just forced together to like try and compete to be the one. And I feel like it's a really interesting plot, and it kind of fits in with Emily Henry's past writing. Like if you know, every part of like her books has something to do with like writing in books, and as a reader I feel like we all really enjoy reading about other people who love reading and writing, so I feel like that will fit very well into Emily Henry's discography. Is that the right word? I have no idea, but in with all her other books, so I'm really excited to read that one. The next book I'm really excited to read in 2025 is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Now I only read Abby Jimenez for the first time in 2024, and I absolutely fell in love with her writing and her stories. I read her 6 most popular books. I don't know if she has any more, but like her 2 main like series that she has, I absolutely devoured them. And her latest release I absolutely loved. I was obsessed with, like, it randomly pops in my mind all the time, and like I genuinely just never stop thinking about this book. kind of the same that I think about like Funny Story. Like I read them, I think one after the other or like really close together. So those two books always really stick out to me for like the best books I read last year. But yeah, so Abby Jimenez, I've just come to absolutely love and adore her, and I genuinely cannot wait to read this book. This story is about these two people who come together briefly and they just kind of really connect, but they both have things that are obviously complicated and not wrong with them, just make having a relationship not a good idea at the moment, and mainly from the female character's side. And so she's like, please forget me, like I just can't do this right now. And it's really hard for the male character to forget her, and they just kind of like come together. There's really not a lot that I know about this book. That's like the brief explanation that I've been given into this book, but I'm a person who kind of loves going into books blind, so the less I know about a book, the kind of the better. Like my expectations are like on the floor, and that usually makes the best reads is when I have no idea what I'm actually getting into. But knowing Abby Jimenez, I'm absolutely gonna love this book, and I genuinely cannot wait to read it. The next book I am excited to read in 2025 is Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. I have only read one book by her, and that was Out on a Limb, and I read that in December and I absolutely adored it. I love it so much. Instant 5-star read. Like I was obsessed. I could not stop listening to this book when I was listening to it, and I genuinely just kind of want to re-listen to it. She has other books out that I do want to give a go as well, because I feel like I'll really like it, but this is her new release for 2025 and it sounds really interesting. So you've got a couple, they've been together for I think like 17 years, so I think the characters are a little bit older, but they've been together since they were 19 years old, and the main female character starts to wonder kind of who she is without her other half. Can she do anything independently and alone? And she just kind of starts to question herself, so she decides to do a gala night, and she's trying so hard to just prove that she can do things alone and she doesn't need her other half, and it kind of just fails. And the other half kind of comes in to rescue her, and it just creates a big rift between them. And so it's like a rediscovering yourself within a marriage and seeing who you are independently while also being in this couple. And I really love stories that are kind of like just discovering yourself or rediscovering yourself after a little while, and so I feel like I'll really like this one. The next book I would like to read in 2025 is Wild Side by Elsie Silver. Can we see a theme going on here that I really love some good romance books? But this is the third book in the Rose Hill series, and if you haven't read anything by Elsie Silver, I would absolutely recommend either this series or her Chestnut Spring series. Or there's like another series I know she has. I haven't started that series yet, but I'm also in the middle of so many series that I really need to just kind of get my act together with them. So this is kind of like a romance enemies to lovers, because we all know that like true enemies to lovers can really only be in fantasy. Like in my brain, that's my opinion. Like true enemies to lovers is like going to kill each other type enemies to lovers, but these are kind of like haters to lovers. Like they are not friends, they do not get along, but they are forced into a marriage to protect the guardianship of the main female character's nephew. And if you don't know, I think the Rose Hill series, it's like all small town, but they're all kind of like billionaires, and there's always a child involved, and I'm kind of loving it. Like I am eating up like single dad romances or single parent romances, or like just a child. Even controversial, I do love a pregnancy trope. I'm going to say it. I am one who loves a pregnancy trope, and so I eat it up every time there's a child in a romance book. So I am loving this series by her, and I'm so excited to read it. And I feel like there's just kind of like tension between those people who like, is he gonna punch me or is he gonna kiss me? I feel like that's always really interesting, so I'm really excited to read this one. The fifth book on this list, which is also the last book of the new releases, is Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. I have read 2 books by Ashley Poston at the moment, and that is her new one, which is like the one where she gets sucked into like her favorite small town romances town, and then The 7-Year Slip. I loved The 7-Year Slip. Like another 5-star read for me. I absolutely devoured it, and I genuinely was so surprised by how much I loved it. The second one disappointed me a little bit. And then I haven't read Dead Romantics yet, so I think I also want to read that one. But I feel like I still want to give Ashley Poston like a good go, as I loved The 7 Year Slip so much. I kind of love with Ashley Poston's writing that there's some sort of like supernatural or fantasy element within her romances. Like they're a romance, like first and foremost they are a romance book. But like in The 7 Year Slip, kind of explains it. There's like a 7-year time difference thing that goes on. The other one is she gets stuck into the town of like her favorite romance book that like only exists in this book. And then I think with Dead Romantics, it's like about a ghost. So that sort of like element she always has in her stories, and I think that's really entertaining. This one, there is a songwriter and a musician, and they have to work together as she is having some writer's block and just needs some help. But the musician's very like cold and bitter, and again kind of just like that enemies to lovers type tensiony romance, and I also kind of live for that. So I'm excited to see how this book goes and the writing style within this one. The next book is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. Now, we've strayed from romances for once. Oh my god, who am I? I've read one Riley Sager book so far, and that is The House Across the Lake, and I really loved it. Like when I was reading it, I just could not put it down at all. Like I was so thoroughly invested in this book, and so I really want to give Riley Sager another read. I physically have 2 of his other books as well, so I want to give that a go, and one of them is The Last Time I Lied. So this book is about Emma, and when she was younger she went to a camp over the summer and she made like a couple friends there, and they decided to play 2 truths and a lie, and then 3 of the friends go missing. And since then she's never been back there, but for some reason she has to go back to the camp as it's reopening, and then she just kind of has to deal with the emotions of going back there after a traumatic thing, but also kind of figuring out what exactly happened, because I don't think the case was ever figured out. And I feel like I'm absolutely gonna devour this book. I really want to read it soon, as I do have the physical copy. I am just so excited to see if I still like Riley Sager or if it was just a one-off. The next book I want to read is The Familiar by Leah Bardugo. I've read a few books by Leah Bardugo before, and they weren't my favorite, but they weren't bad. So I did kind of want to see within like a different series how her writing is and if I'd really like it. And ever since this one got released, it's absolutely always intrigued me, especially the cover. Like I absolutely love the cover. I feel like it's really interesting. This is a fantasy book, and I do love fantasy, but for some reason last year I just really wasn't into reading fantasy a lot. So I really want to try and get back into my fantasy books, because I do miss it. I love the feeling of fantasies and I really want to get back into it. So hopefully this one will help me. So The Familiar is about a girl who has magical powers, obviously, but she's like hidden it from her mistress. But when her mistress finds out that she has these abilities, she is taken to the royal court to help use her abilities for the royal court. Like I'm not too sure exactly, but that's what's on the back of the book. And through this she has to kind of figure out, deal with nobility and the royal palace and everything, while also trying to discover her like ancestry and the history behind that. And I feel like it's just a really interesting read. Like I feel like it's something that I would really enjoy, because it gives off like vibes of, if you've ever seen the TV show Reign, which is about like Mary Queen of Scots, like I don't know why I'm getting like that vibes for like the setting and atmosphere, but like add fantasy and magic into it. I don't know if that's completely off, but that's what I'm getting, and so I'm really hoping I enjoy it. The next book is kind of more of a series, but I just kind of lumped it into one, and that is surprisingly the Hunger Games series. I have never actually read the Hunger Games series, but I absolutely love the movie series, and so I really want to read the actual books. Like I have them, I've had them for years. Like they've been sitting on my shelves for a minimum of 4 years, and I just haven't actually read them. So I really want to like physically read these books and actually see what else happens in the story that the movies don't portray or just kind of leave out, especially with the new book release. I really want to be able to read that book before the movie comes out, because I didn't get that chance with The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes either. So I just feel like it would be really cool. The second last book on this list is Taming Seven by Chloe Walsh. This is on here because I have read the first 4 books within this series and I'm absolutely devouring it and loving it, and I cannot wait to complete this series once it is completed. So far, Taming Seven is the latest release of this series. It was released last year in 2024. I believe there's like either 1 or 2 more books coming out, but I know that the series is kind of finishing up, which makes me really sad because I really like this series. Like, this series fully surprised me, especially the first 2 books. I'm in love with the first 2 books, which is kind of crazy to say if you've read the books, but I don't think I can explain too much about what Taming Seven is about because it is the 5th book in this series. But I would absolutely recommend this series so much. Now, the first 2 books are really big and chunky. Like, they are some chunky books, but trust me, it is just amazing. Like, I was that person when I went into them. I was like, what could you possibly have to say about 2 teenagers and 2 like 800-page books? A lot was said, and also not enough. Like, if the whole series was just about those first 2 characters, I would be happy. Like, I love them. But I'm really excited to read Taming Seven and the characters within that story. Then the last book on this list is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. And if you've watched any of my other videos, I think I explained that I tried reading this book like 3 different times in 2024. Like, it blew up a little bit on BookTube and it was really emotional and everyone was crying in it. And I honestly just really want a good book to make me cry. Like, I haven't had a good sob in a book in a while and I really want that. Don't know why, please don't question it. But I just absolutely really want to give this book another go. Like, I think I just kept reading it when I was in a really big reading slump, so I didn't have the effort to actually continue it and I always got stuck. And so I think I just need to get through that first little part of the book and then I'll absolutely devour it. But I really want to give this book another go. I really hope I enjoy it and like it. But The Nightingale, if you haven't heard, is about women within the war and just how they have to band together because of just difference in sexes and the views and all that during the wartime. And that's really all I know about that book. So again, I think going into it as blind as I can be is a lot better for me. Like, I love going into books blind, so I just kind of am keeping my knowledge of that book to a bare minimum. But yeah, those are the 10 books I would really love to read in 2025, and I really hope I get to all of them. I am pretty sure I will get to at least most of them, especially those new releases. Like, I'm so excited about those new releases. But yeah, I hope you liked today's video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I have some pretty exciting videos coming up, and so I hope you guys enjoyed those as well. But yeah, bye. I've been going nowhere lately. It's time to start all over.